If you are afraid of death, you are not worthy to be called a true Christian. Dearly beloved in Jesus Christ, welcome to the reflections of 5th Lenten Sunday, Year A. In the initial phase of the church history, in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd centuries, the Christians were persecuted a lot for their faith. They were thrown to the animals, they were killed, they were martyred, and they were exiled. But in spite of all these persecutions, the Christianity grew up well. What do you think the reason is? The reason is the Christians of those days were convinced that there is a life after death. Till the Milvian Bridge War, where the Emperor Constantine won the war victorious with the help of the cross, the Christianity was a minor religion. But after this war, when the Constantine was converted to Christianity, he made the church or the Christianity as official religion of the country. And then the Christianity spread across the globe. But before that, the Christians were persecuted a lot for their faith, but still the faith grew up. The number of the Christians grew up. It's because they were convinced that death is not end of everything. In today's gospel passage, Jesus tells, I am the resurrection and am the life. In this statement, there is no place for death. There is no thought about death, because death has nothing to do with us Christians when we are truly a believer of Christ. Therefore, try to understand today, if you are frightened of your death, if the thoughts of your death come to you and disturb you, you are not worthy to be called a Christian. The death has come into this world with the sin of the first parents. And then this death is overcoming the human race, persecuting the human race, and taking the lives of the human race. But Jesus, who came into this world, he showed with his life and ministry that death is not end of everything. Therefore, we should be strong enough to say with Saint Paul, the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verses 55, death, where is your victory? Because death is defeated with the coming of Jesus, and finally it was nullified in his resurrection. The sign of raising Lazarus from death is the last signs that is presented in the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John had 9 signs, and this is the last sign. Prior to this incident, Jesus raised people from the dead. To mention a few, in the Gospel of Luke chapter 7, we hear Jesus raising the only son of a widow, a town called Nain. Again, in the 8th chapter of Gospel of Luke, we hear Jesus raising the daughter of Jairus. And now we have a third incident where Jesus raised his best friend Lazarus from the dead. Why do you think the episode of raising of Lazarus from the dead is presented just before the Passion Week? We know next Sunday is going to be Passion Sunday or Palm Sunday, from which the Holy Week begins, which means the intensity of the persecutions of Jesus begins. And in this juncture, Jesus raises Lazarus from death. It's just because he wants to show to his disciples, he wants to show to all those people who believed in him that he is going to rise from the dead. And death is not the end of a Christian life. All these 3 instances are a foresight of his own resurrection, in which the disciples initially doubted to believe. Therefore, Jesus presented all these things to his disciples before the Passion Week to tell them, this is going to be true with me as well. Therefore, dear friends in Jesus Christ, for the 5th Sunday of the Lenten season, let's try to understand 2 important realities. The first one, if you are frightened of death, remember, you are not worthy to be called a Christian. Secondly, the instance of Jesus raising Lazarus from death is a belief path to his disciples in the resurrection of Jesus himself. Therefore, Keep these thoughts in mind and prepare ourselves for the fruitful Holy Week. Let God bless us all and have a blessed Sunday.